Sanibonani my kind, welcome to another episode of Daily Thetha Lagu SABC 1. Sithi sibingelele all the way from Cape Town siyongena phakathi ngokuthi KZN. Sibuye sikhombela impopho. Ngegama ke mina uMilodwa kaMiya ugcwanile sibe uziza umunja lo asambi sodwa asamba nosisi wethu who is our sign language interpreter, which is usisi Andiswa wakaGebashe. As we get into our conversation today, sibuka impilo and the indima edlala uthisha. I mean, we've always known ukuthi uthisha othize angakusiza ukuthi ube impumelelo or mhlawumbe angayisho something ozoyibamba ngenhliziyo and then besigcina ukuthi ingakunika imvumo ukuthi uqhubeke nendlela ofisa ngayo. We've seen ukuthi othisha have always been at the backbone of ukukhulisa ulusha lase South Africa from grade 1 uziyongena to grade 12. Kodwa phinde sibuke ngempela ukuthi what challenges do teachers go through as they play this role in our society?
Ale nna ka le dumedisa re tswang gona Kapa re yang Limpopo mara se ka lebala go feta gona ko Naspoti re le Bushbuckridge because nna ka leina ke Nicolette wa Gamashile ngwana tswa kwa Bushbuckridge Mapulaneng. Now of course kamano magareng ga barutisi le barutwana e tswa gole ka matla ene ka lebaka le lo gone mo ga Daily Thetha re fa shedi ga barutisi ba baswa re fa shedi ga yona karolo ba e ganang go tsa thuto but also go ya ga bona ba etapele ba ka moso. Of course democracy ya rena e tlisitse tokololo go barutisi gore ba gone go leka ka mekgwa e fapanang gore ba thute bana ba rona go di classeng but bona mogwa e ke mekgwa o bo selinteng gale.
And also as besbuka inkululeko scenario namhlanje, especially when you look into the world of education, akukho mnandi all the time because nezinto ahlangana benazo awuthisha, things like disrespect emaklasini umfundi abona ngathi bayalingana, sometimes ukuthi kube nobandlululo in the staff room nakhona abazali futhi babuye bathi hayi cha mncane kakhulu angeke akwazi ukuthi afundise ingane yami. Into esibukayo namhlanje sicela wena mbukeli ukuthi uxhumane nathi on our social media platforms utilizing the hashtag Daily Thetha ku Instagram, ku Facebook, nakhona usebenzise i-WhatsApp number yethu nakona ukuthi konje Nicolette ithini
072 316 1329 and if awuna airtime ya go re fonela o kana re tshwara ka mogala ka 011339 1315.
Asithi kancane siyobona ukuthi eSupertsila bona ke e-classroom bekunjani bekuthi bane dream because ukulandelela or bekunenkinga akubuke kancane.
Okay, career guidance. Now, we've talked about your goals and your interests. Today, we're going to talk about your careers. So, what do you want to be when you leave school?
Me?
Yes.
I think maybe.
I think maybe we'll come back to you. Sticks.
Okay. I want to work at Nando's so that I can eat a lot of meat.
Nomsa, what do you want to be when you leave school?
I'm going to be a doctor.
Well, it's very difficult getting into medical school.
So?
Very few of my value-rich students managed it.
What are you saying?
I'm just saying that your marks have to be very high.
And we can't get those marks.
Are you going to get straight A's?
Why not?
What did you say?
I just said you don't believe that I can do it.
Well, it's not that I don't believe that you can do it, Nomsa. I just don't want you to have unrealistic expectations.
So a ghetto rat cannot expect to get into medical school.
That is not what I am saying.
Only those Model C students of yours can do it, ne?
Well, their marks are higher on average, yes.
Why don't you go back there then?
If I could, I would, believe
We don't need you.
I didn't choose to be here.
We need teachers who encourage us. We don't need a teacher like you who puts us down.
Kere indeed ne go shubile ko Masupatsela High School ga mistress a botsa Nomsa go rotsa re ke nne di marks ga go a sesi a di kene go medicine school. And I can really relate to Nomsa because le nna I had teachers who used to say to me Nicolette ona le molomo motelle. But look at me now, teacher, look at me now. Look what you got TV now. Yeah. But you know, this is obviously a fictional scene, but of course it does happen in the classroom. Re kgona go bona gore sometimes the relationship between a teacher and a student is not always a positive one, but of course it's not always negative. Ke ena Njabule Ncube a rotsa re ke nna teacher wa ka o ile a pheta dintho tse kgatlisang bopheleng ba ka. So let's welcome Njabule to Daily Thetha. Njabule, good morning.
Good morning, Sis Nicolette. How are you doing?
Ke monate Njabule a re kene ko tabeng o re botsa gore na karolo e wena menier le mistress ba tlaleng ko phelo ba gago, what type of role is it?
Well, to be quite honest, all teachers in my high school and primary played a role, but then there's one that stood apart, which was Usenkosi, because what he did, he had like a program where he would teach every student every after school. So that on its own changed how, because my grades, my performance was below average. But after I started attending, there was a very drastic change to how I performed overall.
Mhlawumbe Njabulo njengomuntu impilo yakhe eshintshe uthisha wakho akutshele kancane how did you find yourself trusting him in this journey, because kuye ukuthi uthisha umthemba kanjani ukuthi usondelene again?
It was how he treated like every student. Like he understood where our background we were coming from, and he ensured that our voice is heard throughout the course of our school.
Njabulo, did you ever feel or maybe Mr. Nkosi wafitelela beyond being murutisi?
Yeah, he did. So what he actually did, he supported me spiritually, financially. He gave me advice, all aspects. So he ensured that everything is catered for at all times.
So financially, na go fa le tšhelete?
No, not really, but he was giving me financial advice on how to use my money so that I can be able to apply whatever skills he gave me by then, and I'm able to use my money like properly at this point.
And nakhona Njabulo, I mean, baningi othisha esikolweni who were not doing what, let's say, uSenkosi bekakwenza. Did that maybe make you not respect the other teachers the way uhlonipha ngakhona uthisha Nkosi?
Well, he always instilled the respect, so he made sure that the respect should be the same throughout, irrespective of how he treats you as an individual.
Njabulo, re startile re thomile show ka a clip e tswang ko a previous show e re tsebang, a very popular show you used to play on SABC. Go na le a high school situation ge mistress a botsa Nomsa gore wa tswa king Nomsa o ka se felele o ba dokotela because wena di marks tsa gago they don't really qualify. How do you perceive yona scene ela?
Well, to a certain extent, I've always wanted to pursue a career in engineering, but then I didn't know which one to take. So as Usenkosi, knowing that how to play his role as a teacher, he sort of made me to tap into that career which I like, and ended up pursuing a degree in electrical engineering.
And Njabulo, it makes me then want to understand which njengomfundi kunomfundi ofana nawe, what did you have to do to make impilo kaSenkosi ukuthi ibe lula eclassini? What did you have to do?
Was to obviously participate and show, like, sort of be an example to other kids in giving like respect and always abiding by the rules that he makes.
Maybe Njabulo re bolele ka baswa, we know gore gona le barutisi who are quite young and ke baswa. O ka ba tshepa wena gore ba rute ngwana gago?
Yes, indeed, because even with I was doing my last grade, so there were those teaching experience where students would come and teach us. So the respect was still the same, because what they rendered to us was very resourceful, and it helped me to be where I am at this point.
Hayi Njabulo, siyajabula ukuthi uSenkosi ukwazile ukudlala indima ayidlalile empilweni yakho mfowethu. Phinde futhi ukuthi akunika ithuba nawe ukuthi to pursue your dreams. Do you feel like you're closer to your dreams, in short?
I am, God willing.
All right, no. Sabonga kakhulu Njabulo for being with us la ku Daily Thetha. Nakhona mbukele ekhaya ngiyazi uhle lapha uthi nami ngifuna ukuphawula, ake size ukuthi wena ku voice note uthini.
Oh, sanibona Nicholas no Melody. Important contributions yothisha abasinika yona elifini. Obviously yodwa ukuthi bazinikele bona ukuthi ukuze befunze imiqondo yethu. Nasemphakathini yabo lento esifundayo thina siyabuya back emakhaya yabo. Sibatshela ukuthi okay sifunde ukuthi kanje nokuthi lento yamakha kumuntu omdala yabo nje yamakha automatically into esho.
Of course, I understand that mmereko wa teacher le barutisi asa go tseya mato a motswadi. It's not to take over that parenting job, but at the end of the day, ngwana will spend almost close to 8 to 9 hours at skolong. So the relationship is important. Gore ngwana a kgone go relate with their teacher. And after Papacho, we dig a little bit deeper into that. Do stay with us.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha la ku SABC 1. Setsha ukuthi nisahleli nathi saxoxa nje ngempilo yothisha and nakhona ukuthi indima abayidlalayo empilweni zabafundi nomphakathi overall. Yazi kunosisho bathi kunothisha and then kuno-teacher. And umehluko kuba uyini indlela abakwazi ukuthi bahlukanise othisha abayele just ukuyohola and teachers that are able ukuthi baye esikolweni because bane passion banothando and bathola indlela engafani ukuthi bakwazi ukuthi bafundise ingane zabo every single day.
When you say no teacher, I'm like, hey, what's in mind? It's something of saying serious.
Yeah,
you know? This is it. Right, but now those teachers who's really passionate about a teacher Lwazi for those who really love her. Teacher Lwazi can no Lwazi mabale. Even during the difficult times, I'm going to make sure they get the education that they deserve. After all, it is enshrined in the Bill of Rights. Teacher Lwazi, she's relentless in her effort and she shows in the way she teaches. Let's kind of get a snippet of how she does it.
Hello Bazali and hello boys and girls. This is Teacher Lwazi and in this lesson we'll be doing maths. Please have your books and your pencils ready. Please write the date so long. Let's get started. As we start, there are two words that I'd like us to know. The first word is heavy and the next word is light. Now you don't have to do this. You can if you want to, but I'll just do it to explain. We have a brick and a feather. Which one do you think is heavy? Clever. The brick is much heavier than the feather. So the brick is heavy and the feather is light. Let's look at the next comparison. We have a car and a truck. Which one is heavier? The truck is much heavier. The truck is heavy. And which one is light? Clever. Of course the car is light.
Yazi ngesinye isikhathi sinokubona umsebenzi onje sithi wow and sisikhumbula ukuthi isikhathi esiningi abantu abadala othisha sebadala we've been in the industry have a better opportunity ukwazi ukufundisa i-foundation phase kodwa siyajabula ukubona othisha abafana no-teacher Lwazi abakwazi ukuthi bashintshe izinto as the times are changing but be able to convey ulwazi to abafundi babo emaklasini. Teacher noLwazi siyakwamukela mhlanje eDaily Thetha.
Sanibona baba Melody.
Ninjani?
Siyaphila njani baba?
Sikhona. Sithi singena endabeni man ake sikhulume kancane ukuthi how did you get into just becoming a teacher?
Funny story, when I applied at the University of Johannesburg, I had two options. It was either law or teaching. And when I was going to study education, I had thought of studying intermediate phase or FET.
Yeah.
But when I got there, I suppose it chose me. They were like, no, we put you for foundation phase. And I think from there, the story writes itself. Waiting, like it's in the blood. I don't even know what kind of lawyer I would have been. I don't think I would have been a better lawyer than I am.
So it's a calling.
That's how much I love it. Really?
Also foundation phase.
Really?
But no.
It didn't work for you?
No, Ceci. It wasn't for me.
Really?
And often you find that teaching, passion, but because sometimes it's convenient or
exactly.
Is that something that is servicing bana ba rona?
Angicabanga kanjalo because yabo manganalo uthando in anything that you're doing. Impumelelo izoba incane. The passion and the love into eqhubayo basically. So mangabe unothando it propels you in the right direction and you end up doing and acting compassionately in everything that you do.
Well, I mean that's the reason why I'm sitting here today.
Of course.
And when we look at the foundation phase, it's not the easiest phase because when udila nabo RR grade 0, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 and ngibona abahluphayo ngobani abezo they still forming. Yini kwenza ukuthi ukhethe iphase kanje?
For me, iphase ukuthi masengenile ngabona ubuqobo kwakhona ukuthi I felt like I'm privileged to be in the beginning and to set the tone for ingane and education.
Sure.
I felt like in the beginning if I'm here then I have an opportunity ukuthi ngakhe uthando kwingane about school and to even encourage them and set the tone ukuthi noma sowufika phambili utlokotshwa gore gona le bana ba ileng gore gona le ma teacher le gore they might bakuphathe ngenye indlela wena utlokotshwa gore awufihla kopele sustain the same love that I have planted. Exactly.
Maybe I really in your past because teacher almost. Were you ever taught by young teachers in your life?
I was. I don't have a very good memory, but I was taught, but I can remember my grade 1 teacher. She was young. She was young. And in high school also, I had a few young teachers, and I can tell that I related a lot more to them than the older teachers because they came to us with a sense of understanding, and because the generation gap is much closer and smaller, we had a lot of relatedness.
I can imagine if it's the example, relevant.
Exactly.
Because teacher, and you're like, you know, but maybe excuse Melody, maybe we can perhaps what then made you outside of your classroom? Even online, these tools are available.
Whatever, I had this concept even before the lockdown. I wanted for parents to have an opportunity to step into the classroom also. Like the lesson, both parent and child, involved, just to extend the hand. It was not so much just for the child. It was to integrate, because so I wanted it to be an open book. And the approach. So that was my intention. But when the lockdown came, I was like, you know what? I've been sleeping on this idea. Let me do this. My husband grabbed the camera and we were like, hey, let's do this. In the beginning, it was a baptism by fire. Because I had to do everything and, the editing and all of that. But I thought to myself, I'm going to do this. These kids depend on us. So I'm thinking to myself, we need to push. I wish more teachers were engaged in this way. I wish that as teachers we become a little braver.
Yes, all teacher bafana nawe, they're not always received ngothando by colleagues in staff room. But hey, uzenza ngcono lo. Hey, was kakhulu. Hey, teacher Lwazi, when we receive a kanjani or have you been experienced?
You sound like you've got an experience.
I actually don't. I don't have an experience. And as they always say, a new broom sweeps clean. And I spent long waking nights thinking, what does this new broom sweeps clean mean? So I was really very well received eskolweni, and everyone was open. Well, it's a game of strengths eskolweni. So whatever strength that you come with, it's always well received. All the young teachers, even the teachers who come after me, were also equally received.
Kodwa abazali bona kuma parents meeting abahluphi bona bakubona lo.
No. Especially because so I think our parents are free. In fact, they get excited when a new teacher comes. You know, there are pros and cons. With a new teacher, you come with innovation. With an old teacher, you come with experience. And you can't buy both. So especially with the school I teach at, which is brilliant, every parent is happy with either class. So I'm settled. I was okay with istafu yonke right.
But as Motomoswa, what type of challenges do you face? It might not necessarily be because per se, even out of the classroom.
I might just say at first, socially, I was so afraid to even go out when I started my teaching job. My friends would say, no, let's go. I'm like, I can't go out.
Because parents are going to bump into me. I was shot there taking.
So I was so reluctant. But then I grew into it, and the challenges came with the realities of the classroom. There's so much more than just teaching. There is a lot of admin. There is a lot of work that comes with being a teacher, even just teaching. There's a lot of admin. There's a lot of work behind the scenes, even if it's not just about the class. So in the beginning, I really found it hard to keep up with what was required, because I came in with the thing I didn't account into my mind that we have to do things like IQMAs. You had to make reports. You had to, I knew my students so well, but I didn't take into place like when my first year of teaching, I taught I think 55 grade 1s.
Sure. In one class.
Another baptism by fire, girl. So the marking, it was so overwhelming. 4 times a year, when it was time for assessments, I was so overwhelmed. You could even see it. I wasn't coping with.
And because the 2 o'clock, the term holiday.
No. It's fun. It's fun being a teacher, but it comes with a lot of social responsibility. So even if I've got holidays,
Yeah.
but I can tell that I spent a lot of waking nights thinking about Gigatusha Ngwana Jwang.
Ai, ra leboga man, no Lwazi. Teacher Lwazi ke a re botsa gore na how nice it is for her to teach go foundation phase, but also gore passion ya gage where it lies. When we come back, we'll look at a little bit more challenges around go ba morutisi wa mo. So please stay with us after Papacho.
Teachers made an important contribution in my life and to the community as a whole, since they were not.
Sibona technical difficulties, part of the growing process. Fana notisha ukuthi bohleli beluhlezi uhleli phezulu kwayi number uthi ikhona sijabulisa hleli nathi la ku Daily Thetha on SABC 1. Sakhuluma ngokukhula kothisha basasebasha in the system who actually get into the classroom bafike bathi yo, am I ready, am I not ready? Kodwa nakhona bakwazi ukuthi bathole ithuba ukuthi nabo bazifundise because they end up becoming teachers emphakathini. Just like as we get to see uthisha bambiza uMam Thobile King, who was a student efunda science esikolweni, lebe beyisaba abantu yena waphuma waqeda isikole waba uthisha wabuya wazoyifundisa le science abantu abayisabayo. Wathi ngifisa ukuthi abantu to understand that science is a subject that we should not fear, but also she didn't stop there. Uhambile ke waba uthisha for igeleza nathi ku SABC 1 that helps young students through umabona kude kanje. Ake sibone umsebenzi wakhe kancane.
I'm Thobile. I am a maths and physical science teacher. I teach in a high school in Witbank. I also have my own tutoring company where I teach physics. I also teach physical sciences on a show called Ikelezanati.
A beautiful Tuesday morning and you are with me, Miss King, and that can only mean physical sciences. So in today's show, I'm on rates of reactions. And remember, when you hear rates of reactions, in your head, I want you to think of Le Chatelier's principle.
I think the biggest thing that made me pursue a career in teaching is the fact to break the stigma with the subject of physical sciences. I wanted to pursue the career in teaching to show people that physics is actually a subject that children can pass.
Now, when a reaction is occurring, the rate depends on certain factors.
Most of the time they think maths and physics is it's a male subject and you need to be old and so forth. But in my profession, I won't lie to you, I am one of the youngest. But my age is not the reason why I started teaching. I did do maths and physics, and then I decided to not go into the engineering route like everyone else, but move into something different, which for me was teaching. So some of the challenges that we have in teaching now, you know, it's a career that's really looked down upon. It's really a career where people no, we can do so much better and so forth. But in the time where our country is now, parents are just like, take these kids back, you know? I saw this video where this parent was like, oh my word, I had to teach my kids exponents and I don't know what's going on. And it's something that people look down upon, but without thinking, the youth of South Africa, if they do not support us in order to make leaders and businessmen and entrepreneurs and engineers and all these things, then unfortunately youth here too it's in shambles. And as an educator, you need to be a parent, you need to be a social worker, you need to be a disciplinary, you need to be, there's a lot of things. You have to uzikame phansi uma unesikhathi umbuzo ukuthi yabo or umntwana uzakuya khala uthi ekhaya kubi. Kose kuzithobe again and be a parent umlaleli ukuthi kwenzakalani. Uthola umunye akutshela ukuthi ekhaya sinakudla. Or uyathola ungena eklasini uthola ukuthi there's a child umunye is very slow. I mean, you've got kids who can't even write properly. Abanye they are way ahead by mistake. Again, melube a social worker and intervene. You know, those are all things that we don't get paid for that. Now, after school, you do after school classes because you need to make sure your kids pass. You are there, you're marking books and so forth. Each job that does not really get the recognition that it deserves because people don't see the lens in which we go to. There's teachers in classrooms who have 105 children. Parents are scared to just discipline 3. You have 105. You must mark, make sure that all of them actually pass through. With subjects like physics, it requires a lot. It's strenuous because, and best believe it, you do worry. You do lie at night and say, yo, understand Lana, how can I help them? What can I do this? And then out of your own pocket, you'll buy the whole class jelly tots because you want them to understand intermolecular forces, you know? And as a teacher, unfortunately, how the kids perform is a reflection of you. Regardless, do they listen? Do they do the homework? They don't want to know that. They want to know if the kids are passing. So there's so much that we do and there's so much that we go through and put in our work that a lot of people don't see.
Teleja, intellectual forces, I give ring, exponents, speed, momentum, periodic table, physical science is not an easy feat. So halala, Miss King, halala, thank you very much for the part that you are playing in a young South African's life. Nabari, baba tsebang bokaone ba re ngwana o khwela dibi tsa motswadi wa ge. So the question re botsa ko rena, even young teachers, barutisi ba baswa ba khwela tsona dibi tsa old teachers go ikhumisha ga bona le lenyatso lo be bana le lona during those times in the olden days. Re ba botsa bana ko classeng ba rotsa re keng wena o ka sa felele felo. And to have this conversation, we are joined by Ma'am Nom Samahlaji. A tlo gona go re thusha gore now maybe open up a different light in terms of how do they manage these young teachers that we've got at our schools. Nom Samahlaji, welcome to Daily Thetha.
Welcome.
Le kae mama? Mama Nomsa, maybe we can start here. Some of the challenges that di bonang ke ba teacher ba baswa ko dikolong, what are they?
The challenges tse le gore bana ba baswa ba le batlhakana le tsona. Number 1, abana khotlhelelo. Because teaching inyaka khotlhelelo. There are lots and lots of challenges to be a teacher. Because when you are a teacher, you must be a mother, ube a teacher, ube a social worker, ube a doctor, ube a nurse, ube everything. So those qualities, you are going to face many difficulties. More teaching, renale bana ba gore ke di bully, ba delela ma teacher. So ge o le young o delela ke ngwane munyana. Bana ba these young teachers are ba tsira botse. We now understand those kids because not my own kids. I know how kids operate. One other thing, a teacher is a teacher for 24 hours.
Yes.
These young teachers, some of them, they are trying to do that. Some, but some for batin table jabos batin tele bana bona di movie. Kamo ngwana o nyaka teacher from the teacher because role teacher ngwana o khona go tla ga ya nyaka thuso. O kra a young teacher o na le mabaka ya ge le family ya ge. But not all of them. Some of them are very young teachers. They second born back, but ba khona go ka dira mmereko wa go ba a teacher. One other thing, teaching too much. Ke teacher English grade 6, ke teacher 166 ya bana.
Yeah.
So only so sensor ubeli utinikele utife chance ya gore go thusha bana ba ga botho.
Mama, ngicela ukubuza mina, abanye othisha basasebashe bafeel ukuthi they are intimidated by the older teachers because nyaba kube ngazi kunokunyanza, kube ngazi ukuthi hayi lo uzowenzani lo angeke aphumelele la esikolweni. Do you think that some teachers do that to newcomers?
No, the problem is these young teachers when they come I'm from the college before I became a teacher.
Yeah.
They come from universities.
Yeah.
When they come to school, they start to orenyatsa.
Oh, so utima ibona banyatsa nini othisha badala?
Yeah, Barcela fast. They know technology, don't know the technology. But about laptop school, we don't have those laptops. So a young teacher, nake ngwana ge ke ruta ngwana ka kutlaseng ke tshwara tshoko ka ruta ngwana gore ge re ngwala a draw a 0 ra dira lo 1 ke a yena o tla tshwara laptop a tshwara a photocopy ke mo ka ge o motse gore no ngwana a ka se understand ge o mo teacher ka mgo o nya go mo rute go ngwala
Mara
fast. Yes.
The reason is maybe the approach, you know, sometimes approach technology compared to chalk, I find, isn't that maybe not the problem?
Not all of them, they undermine older teachers. They come to you and ask for advice. They come being arrogant or they know more than what you know. They are from universities. You are from a college. Okay, Mama Sachi, just before working Usepela, is there a way to support as the older generation? Yes, we can support each other because we need their support. Respect. go ba le communication e right.
Yeah.
Ke mogara go ra approach a dilo go swana ge nna ke sa kushi technology am tlhalosele le nna ga sa kushi the old way ka mtlhalosele. There will be a good communication go tlo ba le go kwana ga botse.
Ai, ra leboga Mem Matlaji, and good luck with the teaching profession. Ra tseba gore it is after all a passion and a calling.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's the thing. At the end of the day, what's about very level barutisi, are level classroom only because life also happens around them, and only certain dynamics that but after Papacho, we look at some of those dynamics around the teaching profession. Do stay with us.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha. Siyajabula ukuthi njengoba uhlele ekhaya uyafunda, not just esikoleni but nathi lana njengoba sikhuluma ke ngeprofession bathi othisha bona abasasebasha, what do they go through? Mhlawumbe unesifiso wena ukuthi mina ngifuna ukuba othisha bengikhula, kodwa ngithemba ukuthi namhlanje uyafunda ukuthi ezinye izinto they not as pretty as we hear ukuthi hayi umem kumnandi ukuthi ayise akupheleli lapho. Kuba nenkinga esifana nokuthi ungene ezikolweni where you deal with teachers who don't have the same approach ngezifundo njengoba sizwile umem before the ad break, but nakhona kuba nabanye who get into situations where they find themselves in a bit of a more difficult situation. So besikhuluma nosisi bambiza ngomem Mhlaphi yena uTlaphi wakarapu, who is someone who works with ingane ezingezwe emadlebeni in terms of the School of the Deaf, and in that it means that she will then have to put more effort in that special school for lengane asebenza naso. Ngicela ukuthi samamukele namhlanje ku Daily Thetha njengoba zoxoxa nathi. Sis Tlaphi Rapo, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm good, and how are you?
Aye, sikhona.
Sisi Tlaphi, a re kene gona mo tabong ya rena, you are not just morutisi, o ruta ko sekolong sa bana ba nang bothata ba go kwa. Can you perhaps tell us gore na why did you even go further than teaching?
Okay, I'm from a deaf family. Both my parents are deaf, and growing up, I've always been exposed to deaf people. However, I've always asked myself, why aren't deaf people going as further as going to varsity and whatnot? And I took it upon myself to make sure that most learners, actually deaf learners, do access higher education, because it's clearly not even about their abilities. It's just about who is teaching them and what goal does that person even have for them and whatnot. So yeah, it was based on who I was brought up by and thinking of how to bring about the change into their lives also.
It's very interesting the change within the community. Maybe perhaps about some of the problems that are unique to the deaf.
Well, a lot of people assume that just because you come across deaf learners that they know sign language. So the difficulty would be with the fact that the same way you would come across learners who are in the mainstream school learning English and still knowing that they do not know English, but they are there to learn English. That's the very same way you need to learn about deaf learners. So you are not coming into a new space where the ones who are teaching you. You need to know the language good enough to teach them, because you're teaching them their language. They need to be as good as they're supposed to be, the same as with any other language, because still you find but still they still have to learn it. And so yeah. That is one difficulty. You can't assume that just because they're deaf, they know sign language. They still need somebody who's skilled enough to know sign language.
Memrapu, do you still use indlela bofundise ngayo wena as umfundi esikolweni to your kids today, or have you had ukuthi ushintshe le ndlela ofundisa ngakhona?
Yo, there has been a lot of changes. How I'm teaching my learners is actually how I wish I was taught. I'm more of a visual learner. So with my learners sign language being a visual language at the same time, I don't have to bring in a lot of books and whatnot. I have to record a lot of things. They need to be exposed to the internet in terms of YouTube, in terms of the kind of content that would allow them to actually access the information that they need to access, unlike them having to read on books. It's different. Even in English, yes, they can do that, but But right now, what I do the most is using YouTube a lot, is using videos. I myself have to be creative enough to create content that they would actually watch instead of read.
How do they feel about your approach? Are they welcoming or?
Actually, others have been doing it, and others are interested in doing it. It's just that some teachers are not confident enough to record themselves all the time. They're thinking, you know what, the best thing to do is just take the content that has already been existing and teach it over and over again. But children need more interesting ideas, more modern ideas that actually are relevant to them. So, yeah, some like the idea, some are actually doing it, and some are not confident enough.
And Kapi, your peers, but outside of Meroko, you choosing to become a murutisi, because I know sometimes the profession.
Well, funnily enough, for me, coming across people who would ask me, "What are you doing?" and I'm saying, "I'm doing teaching," and then like, "Oh, where are you teaching?" I'm like, "Oh, I teach at schools for the deaf and whatnot." They're all funny and just like, "Whoa, how did you even find out about it?" You know. Nice. So they find it really interesting. They even thinking, how about you all teach us? I'm just like, I studied this, so you have to pay.
Yeah. And perhaps maybe are you finding reputation you're teaching as a profession, it's becoming a little bit better as times go by?
I'll start with my own perception. I never went into varsity thinking I'm going to do teaching. I got to varsity, got exposed, I went to a lot of workshops, and there I decided, you know what, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I find teaching really an important career, and on the basis that because of the goals that I have for my learners, because of the ideas that I think are going to actually let them be liberated and actually access the information that they need to access and actually use it to build their own lives. Teaching has become the most important part of my life. I mean, I even had the opportunity to study interpreting, but I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher.
I know ngempela you're a teacher because nathi lokhu uyasithicha lokuhleli la. Sibonge kakhulu memra siyajabula bokwazi ukuthi uhlale nathi. But that's not the last teacher's criminal. Nakhona we are joined by uMem Thandazile Ndlovu, who is someone also who wants to share ukuthi nama experiences zakhe kwezemfundo. How have they been as a young teacher? Ma'am, welcome to Daily Thetha.
Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for pronouncing my name so beautifully.
I can't go at cinema. Get a scholar sibuze ma when a woman osukile from a private school, wayongena go public school. Akaqale lapho, how was the transition?
Okay, so it was massive. So when I moved from teaching in a private school into a government school, I walked in and I had 39 little faces looking at me, whereas previously I had been teaching 17 children, right? So already that is a big difference. Okay, you know, so it was things like that. It was the size of the class, it was the resources were very different. When I was in a private school, literally anything under the sun that I wanted, I could get quite quickly as well. And then moving into a space of a government school, and I'm in a very good government school, but the processes to attaining things was very different.
Kambe, did you find it also hard to be in a relationship nengane? Because 17 children, makama kumbula day one. If about 39, now, did you have that challenge?
I think yes, definitely. I had to change my approach. When you're dealing with 17, it's a much smaller number. It's very easy to get to know everyone. But manje masabai 39, we're finding the approach. Okay, manje even small things like seating. Okay, when I shalala, so for now shalala, because it's easy for me to remember your name. When I shalala, because it's easy for me to remember your name, things like that. But I mean, when you've been in the game, you kind of learn little tidbits that help you and make things a little bit easier.
Teacher Thandik, you've been discriminated against in various ways, not only just on a personal level, but also on an educational level in terms of Kotla. Do you perhaps have something that you can share with us of an example of how you got discriminated?
Okay. So for me, one of the challenges that I've had is sometimes when people look at you and they see a young teacher, they assume you don't know what you're doing, you know. And now you're in a situation where you're almost feeling like you have to overcompensate in a way to try and prove that actually I know what I'm doing. I'm here because I know what I'm doing, and that has been sometimes been a tricky thing because at the end of the day, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing because you're trying to prove a point, you know?
Hayi Memdlovu sicela usibambele kanjalo sithi sithathe ikhefu besibuya sikwazi ukuthi siqhubeke nenkulumo yethu and of course your experiences. Let's quickly take a break. Welcome back to Daily Thetha. If uqeda ungena endlini Nkosi yami yacasa ushawe isikhathi ngempela kodwa kukhuleka nganyama sasenayo ishow yethu which is live on Facebook njengamanje kusho ukuthi ungakhona ubuyele emuva uqale phansi uyibukele alternatively uhambe ke uye Facebook or YouTube usebenzise iSABC education account ukuze ubone nje wonke ama-show wethu. Sithi sahleli nendaba sihleli nothisha bethu and basasifundisa ukuthi bona izinto abahlangabezana nazo emaklasini yini and ifiso zabo for ukuba uthisha as a young teacher kuba yini looking into the future. Kodwa before siyakhona ngicela ukuthi nje ngifunde la social media kaBigzin Mapele uthi ke being a teacher is very good and challenging especially to the young teachers ngoba uthola ukuthi ugcina kunabafundi abacishe babe at your age bagcine sebefuna ukuzisondeza ngezothando lapho as a professional teacher ube nezindlela zokubaqelisa ukuba ubakhiphe kulowo mqondo #Daily Thetha #Youth Month.
Nkabe re testa ba re ke teacher nolwazi mona gore re bona wa se tseba nasi Zulu na.
Yazi manje alo bekathumela umlayezo ngesiZulu uqala urelax uyibheke kahle.
But we're still back with Teacher Thandi on the line. And Teacher Thandi, just a quick one. Discipline. Discipline especially in foundation phase without feeling bad, but also do you find that it's unrealistic gore batswadi ba expect gore discipline bana ba bona?
Okay, so no, I don't think it's unrealistic for parents to expect me to discipline their children because I do think it is important to have discipline and structure in a class. I think ingxaki is the how, and that's what's very important. I personally, I don't believe in aggressive discipline. There's a difference between being aggressive and being assertive. But I do think children thrive in structure and they need boundaries, especially when they're still younger. They need boundaries. They need to know these are the limits. This is what we work within. So I do think it's important, but I do think that there's a way. And at the end of the day, age is relevant. The way you would discipline a grade 1 is not necessarily the same as the way you would discipline a grade 7.
So we yenzi lento ukuthi bheke sandla sana umshaye nibiza ngidatara.
Maybe mina ngibuze kancane ma'am in terms of the future of imfundo. How do you see us integrating ulwazi esinalo lamhlanje into la siyakhona?
Okay. The biggest thing, I think, if you read anywhere about where education should be going, a lot of things that are spoken about, and the main thing that comes up is thinking. We need to be teaching our children to think, and we need to be moving into a space where our education is going that way. Children are not necessarily learning now how they were 20 years ago, and they're probably not going to be learning 20 years from now how they are now. So we need to be adapting with the times. We need to be equipping them to be at the helm and the forefront of their own education.
Sure, Teacher Thandi, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Thandi. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Nolwazi, perhaps maybe we're gonna pose the same puchishoko now. What is the future ya professional tuto?
You know what I'd like to see happening? I was just telling my colleague that just as I wish that teachers would take Lendoya teaching home too. Home in a sense of which just as doctors consult in hospitals, they have surgeries. I would wish to hope and see that teachers actually open up smaller learning centers where children can consult to sort of ease the pressures that are on the education system. We are qualified, we can do it. The thing is just that also to supplement, because we can see that abazali don't have enough time. Asikho isikhathi sokuthi ingane ifundiswe sincane isikhathi. So if we open our doors even ngaphandle kokuba seklasini, I'm really, my passion and my hope right now is to elevate the learning experiences of the marginalized child.
And the financial implication, because teaching doesn't pay enough. Now you're asking me as the teacher almost like after school,
No, I get you're going to consult. Just as a way someone consults at a doctor.
Oh,
let's consult with teachers also. Let's open up that space. In fact, I hope that I can partner with someone who can help me and open up that area to some pressures. Schools are overcrowded, especially in the Gauteng, and children need that attention. And if teachers are willing enough to open up a business front where we can open up small learning, let's say centers, or in the afternoon you can consult with a teacher who knows and understands the problems system.
For example, who runs a reading program at Katlehong for the past 5 years. The biggest challenge got this now, uguti abantu emphakathini don't want to own these initiatives. When uzoyiqala kodwa abazali abakhona bakwazi ukufunda, just read a sentence, can teach kids how to read. How do you maybe also integrate abazali outside of their professional time?
Lendo, I think we need to also bring in 4IR. Let's do things like recording videos, pre-recorded. That's how we can bring umzali into the picture. As long as a child with the free time ingane nayo, let's use that. Umzali makasitholile isikhathi. Let us open up and be open about the issues in education as teachers on social media. Kwaziwe ukuthi inkinga esinayo nje nje abazali bayiconfront bayibone. Iyahle kwi timeline ibone yahle ukuthi mem uri ngwana bana dependent. You might be one of those parents who would okay, I need to fix the situation ekhaya.
Kodwa mem wena uJaivani ngiyabuza manje ushabo silungu. Wena social life your lunch.
Angisajive kwamanje. Sengiphumile kancane vela usekho umjive ngisizekile nje vele. So no, okwamanje I'm just concentrating on this. I think my energy is drawn towards that. Mhlawumbe isikhathi somjive sobuya futhi okwamanje my energy is centered towards trying to build.
But we balance abang sis Nolwazi. I think it's important to route even other young teachers or bana ba batla kena ga yona career thuto gore how do you balance as a young person underlying all these dreams and being a teacher who's still passionate and still committed to kubana ba gagwe?
In the beginning it's very unsettling. You can't find a balance usathoma. There's going to be an unsettling time where you have to adjust to being a teacher. Then after, let's say after a year, that's when you can start breathing and things are moving like clockwork. That's when you can start giving other things time. I'm not saying that that's how it should be done, but my other colleagues is that the first year is again a baptism by fire. By mollo. So you are adjusting, like you're learning, everything is new to you. You are a new teacher, everything is new to you. So you still so phambili uzoba nesikhathi but ungakhohlwa ukuthi if this is a calling, it is, you are as good or if not better than a doctor as being a teacher. You're paving the way. Exactly.
Ma'am, in short, if you could just tell us who wants to be a teacher, what should they expect?
It's hard work. It's hard work. It's not easy. They can follow me on social media.
Come on now.
At Teacher Lwazi, please do follow me on Instagram. I share a lot of content and I give you insight as to how it is to be a teacher and a parent to a child who's in the foundation phase.
Thank you so much, Nolwazi Mabale. Known as Teacher Lwazi, Jimmy last born. Our teachers are playing a dangerous role right now through this COVID-19 situation. Let's all give them support to risk their lives for our kids. We as the youth, I stand for long live to Memo Libo Menier Barona. As Nolwazi said, but it really gives you so much pleasure.
Yes, I always remember ukuthi teacher does not mean by profession also. It means time. If we as umdala or usisomdala, you can become a teacher to ingane yakweni by learning from our Lwazi as their teachers in profession and ufike endlini usiza ingane homework. Ungathi ingane bekubuza ukuthi hayi mina ngazi bakubuzani la. Kodwa ayibona ingane yakini eyisakuthemba.
Utshela ukuthi syllabus ya this year ayifana last year. But remember, of course, Daily Thetha is an SABC education show. So Lorona right here, we are teachers and everybody that we bring here is definitely Morutisi. But thank you very much for tuning in. Let's Sibonge.